there's been a somewhat of a Twitter beef between your guy Draymond Green and Charles Barkley. Okay, the most recent is here's a statement from Draymond Green on Charles. Draymond said Charles Barkley should stop before I go take his job. He already ain't make enough money playing, so he needs that job. He should stop talking to me. No rings, can't sit at this table. Charles responded, he's like the guy in the boy band who's the least important member, and he thinks that the crowd is cheering for him. He doesn't realize he's standing next to Justin Timberlake. He doesn't have a face for TV. He has a face for radio. Now, I've never been a fan of Draymond Green. I also do agree that he has a face for radio. But I also think that he needs the this is the line that bothered me. He can't, no rings, he can't sit at this table. What table are you sitting at? Are you sitting at a table of just people who have championship rings? Because there's a lot of people have championship rings.
Bro, it's the
Charles
ring
Barkley
table.
is a legend.
It's the ring table. He can't sit there.
No, we can't. We're not doing this. We're not going to start this. Charles Barkley is a legend. He's a basketball legend. Okay.
It's an easy dismissal because you don't have a ring, but
it's bullshit. Like you should.
Bullshit. But it's an easy thing to say because it's true. But he also looks at himself a little bit differently because he also has been an all-star. So in his mind, he's probably a better basketball player than he actually is. He's never been anything close to Charles Barkley.
No, he's never been mistaken for a basketball legend, right? So for him to be, I think it's outrageous for him to be talking to a legend like this. And I think that.
But is there a better two people to be having a feud than Charles Barkley?
It's not.
Green?
But you know who I blame for this? I blame this modern day NBA culture where we inflate these bum dudes because they sat on teams that was really good. Not that Draymond is a bum, but we make it so much about rings that the fifth and sixth guy on the bench is talking shit to a starter on another team because he got a ring. Like that to me is crazy.
Well, you know what, to be honest, and it sounds so weird to say because I have seen winning's always been important, but seeing the culture go from winning helps balance out. Okay, Bill Russell, was he as great as Wilt Chamberlain? Which he was not. Was he as great as Wilt Chamberlain because he won 10 rings?
Yeah. No.
But nowadays, if you have two great players and the guy's got the rings, people are going to tend to lean towards the guy with the rings.
And that's my problem. We got to stop. Right. This is the BS modern day NBA culture that I don't like. And I know
it's specifically NBA because it doesn't.
It's specific because it doesn't happen in any other sport. It doesn't happen in any other sport.
The only thing close other than like tennis and like, solo sports, it happens in the NFL, but not quite as much. And I guess you can say it's because there's only 5 guys on the court at a time. So one player has a much bigger impact, but saying that some guys are better than John Stockton or Karl Malone because they have rings and those guys don't. It's just stupid.
It's crazy to me. It's crazy to me. And I started on this tangent back when the LeBron MJ stuff started. And that was everybody's first line of defense was, 6-3 is da 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 da, or back then it was 6-2, and then it was all of this BS that I was hearing. And to me, I'm like, is this LeBron's fault? Like, because he started threatening Jordan's legacy. And so, and he started the groundswell of people going, oh, that guy might be the GOAT. And so now everybody's just was looking for something else to go to. And so now we go to rings, when to me, rings should definitely be a part of it, but rings cannot be the nail in the coffin on your argument. Like, oh, well, my guy got more rings. You know what I'm saying? Because Draymond Green has more rings than Charles Barkley, but is Draymond Green a better player than Charles Barkley?
No, it can't be I have more rings, I'm a better player, But what makes the LeBron MJ conversation so intriguing is that they do certain things better than the other guy. So, and then they've both got enough rings to make an argument. Because, I mean,
Right.
you've won 6 rings, you've won 3 rings, you've won 2 rings. In my opinion, if you have multiple rings, you can be in the argument for greatest player of all time.
Yeah.
I mean, really, if you have 1 ring, but you were competing every year, you should be in the – and maybe even if you have no rings, you should be able to be in the conversation for greatest player.
And I think that's kind of where I'm at now, because my thing is you can't have it both ways, right? So when guys, some of the old heads, some of the OGs will say, oh, well, I think Bill Russell was the greatest, or I think Kareem Abdul-Jabbar was the greatest. And if you were to say Bill Russell, well, Bill Russell was 13. How many rings he has? 11. So
10 as a player.
11 rings to 10 as a player. 11 total. 11 rings to 6. So this is what I hear all the time. Well, 11 to 6, he's better.
Isn't that when the NBA had like 12 teams?
Probably so. Yeah. But that's my point. Context matters, right? So when you talk about Jordan's 6 rings to LeBron's 3, LeBron made it to the championship a lot of times when he really had no business being there. He took a terrible team full of homeless people and guys out that was just in the park nearby the stadium, and he took them to a championship and lost to the Spurs when he shouldn't have been there in the first place. So right. Now as well,
But it's funny because when I look back on some of those Jordan teams that we revere, they actually weren't very good either. Like they had Scottie Pippen, great player, and then they had a Tony Kukoc at one point. Not very good. He's not that good. Dennis Rodman, who was like a rebounder, defender, like a Draymond Green. The rest of his team, was like Wennington. Remember Wennington?
Right.
Luke Longley.
Yeah.
They just brought those guys in to at least somewhat be able to bang with like Shaquille O'Neal and some of these guys, and John Paxson, Steve Kerr. These guys weren't great players.
And so that goes to what you were saying earlier about timing, which is another, like I say, context matters. You talked about timing, right? The timing of for Michael Jordan's career was almost perfect, right? Because when Jordan broke through, that was when that Pistons team was getting old, because he couldn't beat them when they was fresh. He was losing to them, right? He was getting Jordan got ousted in the first round, 85, 86, 87. Mm-hmm. I think 86 and 87 he got swept. Okay? Mm-hmm. So he didn't get past those that Lakers team or that Pistons team until they was old and decrepit. You know what I'm saying? So that's timing plays into it. So the same way that I can talk about that is the same way I could say LeBron was taking teams to the finals when he was a baby and he really had no business being there. He was overachieving. Literally, we talk about Melo and how Melo's career is really going to be looked at as a big underachievement. Early on in Bron's career, he was overachieving a lot. You know what I mean?
He was overachieving, but the difference back then is that the league was also more balanced out. And yeah, it might have been an older Detroit team, but they were still really good, man.
They was really good. But that's the other thing when you talk about competition.
And the Celtics, and there were still teams that were way more stacked with guys with rings on their fingers and guys that knew Isaiah Thomas, Joe Dumars, Larry Bird, like still great players.
Yeah.
That he was losing to.
Right.
You know what I mean?
But he's the competition still, and I will say this till the day they put me in the ground. Jordan wasn't name a team that Jordan beat that was better than the Warriors team that LeBron beat.
That Jordan just beat in general?
That he beat in the championship, in the finals.
I mean, better. It's tough to say better, but when they beat the Charles Barkley Phoenix Suns,
not better. Nobody ever said that this team might be the best team of all time. I can't find it. Now I wasn't alive back then, but I'm a big basketball historian, and I have no recollection of seeing anywhere. If somebody can see it, put it in the comments. I have no recollection of anybody saying those teams was the greatest team of all time.
Right, but you gotta understand, at that time, Jordan's team was considered maybe the best of all time.
That's my point.
But you can't knock them because they just happen to be in a position.
I'm not
where they have
knocking.
to go be.
I'm not knocking them. I'm saying that Jordan was the dog. Jordan was Goliath. LeBron, for the majority of his career, you can go back and look at who was favored in those finals. LeBron was David. You know what I'm saying? When LeBron beat a 73-win team, he was David. He wasn't supposed to beat that team.
Right.
Well, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. But
so that's what I'm saying. It literally speaks to the argument.
But if you're just talking about what the actual competition was, the Warriors were considered that because they'd already won a chip, right?
Yeah.
Now they got a record-breaking season, and they beat the Bulls, who were arguably
they was beating everybody. They was
so
people say they was that's the reason why Kevin Durant got so much slack is because he went to a team that people say was almost unbeatable without him.
Right, exactly. But I'm just saying, in the argument LeBron versus MJ, those are the things that matter to me. That's the context that people leave out. And they talk about that he won as an underdog.
No, just the competition. You know what I'm saying? Like LeBron has gone. LeBron going up against Hall of Tim Duncan, Kevin Garnett, the best backcourt in the history of NBA. Like these are all people that LeBron beat.
Mm-hmm.
I think when it's all said and done, LeBron's competition when all the hyperbole dies down and he's far done playing, and we look at it, we're gonna go, wait a minute. This guy's role was tougher than this guy's. LeBron was beating those guys.
It's an argument, and you know that I've always ended up less and less, but still I've always ended up on the MJ side.
Yeah,
I do think it's very close, and I think that the tricky part, and this is I think the most interesting part of this podcast so far, but I think the tricky thing is that you have to start. It's so similar because at the end of the day, the reality is that most people agree they're the two greatest players of all time. So
yeah,
we already, not many people are going to say anything else, right?
Right.
So you've got these two are the guys. So you start winning championships. Yeah, MJ won more. Yeah, I guess that's in his favor. LeBron went to more. He's gone to more already, and he's probably going to go to more. Might even win some more. Like MVPs. They're both, one might be a better defender. One's a better rebounder. One's a better passer. One, better outside shot. I mean, but at the end of the day, the greatest player can't be about just numbers and championships.
Right, it can't be.
So you start dwindling it down to these little slivers of edges.
It has to be. You got to put context to it.
Yeah, that might go one way or the other. And the only thing that and it's tough too because I see LeBron so much more now and how great he is, and I forget, even though I know he was great because I just remembering how we looked at MJ. I forget how great MJ was, and you go back and watch some of these games, man, and all of a sudden you're like, wow, I forgot how this guy could take over a game, because this dude could take over a game like nothing I'd ever seen.
Yeah,
and a lot of that was more on the scoring side, although he was always a great defender too, and he became a great team player. But and you and I have had this discussion before when we're talking about the weight of scoring.
Right.
There's plenty of guys that could do a lot of things better than MJ, but when it came to scoring and when he hit that zone in those times that it mattered, it's just the most unstoppable thing I've ever seen.
Yeah.
Now, we've seen LeBron do that too, but it's just when I'm going to give the edge, like if it's LeBron and MJ going head to head in their prime and they're both going to hit that zone, I just give that edge. And it's really barely anything to MJ, including who I would want the ball in the hands of at the end of the game, which again is a close thing too. That's the only that's the only thing these days that pushes me over to the MJ side.
What?
And that really comes down to mental edge more than a physical edge, because he doesn't have a physical edge.
What's the thing that's pushing you over to the edge again?
The mental edge at the end of a game to know that if I give you the ball or I give him the ball, who is going to get it done more often? And I give the edge to MJ.
So LeBron has shot and made more game winners than Michael Jordan has. which is a
but he's already played more seasons.
right. But we're talking about just he's also shooting them at a better percentage, right? So we're talking about just last second shots in a game, even especially in the playoffs. Last second shots to tie, win, or go ahead. LeBron beats Jordan in that category. So people like to say, oh, well, he just is a better, Jordan was clutch and Jordan has this, that, and the third. But then they ignore the fact that LeBron was actually a better clutch shooter than Michael Jordan was.
LeBron was not a better clutch shooter than Michael Jordan. He might have more game winners or go ahead or tie shot, but
doesn't that make him a better clutch shooter?
No, because the amount of games played is insane. He came in out of high school. MJ played 2 or 3 years of 3 years of college, and he retired for 2 years and came back as an old man.
Okay, so
how many? Well, that might help. How many games have they played?
So let's just take postseason, right? Let's just go buzzer beaters. Jordan has 3 buzzer beaters. LeBron has 4, right?
Okay. But that's basically that's basically the same. And LeBron's already played more playoff games, right?
Right, but he's also shooting a higher percentage than Jordan does, right?
Yeah.
So he has them beat on shots made. He has them beat on under 24 seconds tie to go ahead and win. And he also has them in field goal percentage.
Yeah, but that to me, those things wash each other out, because someone having 3 game winners or someone having 4 game winners or buzzer beaters, whatever, that's the same thing to me. Now, but it has to be a factor if you saying one guy is better than the other guy, right? And you saying that your only reason for saying that is because this guy is a better clutch performer than the other guy, right? But the
stats don't back that up.
Well, see, but that's not a stat thing to me. That's a visual watch them play thing. Watching LeBron at the end.
Yeah, but the stats record what you see. The stats record what you watch.
But 3 buzzer beaters and 4 buzzer beaters. And again, I would like to see how many playoff games LeBron's played compared to MJ. Because if he's played 30 more playoff games, then to me, MJ actually is better with the buzzer beaters according to stats, because he'd have at least 1 more in 30 games. But
the amount shouldn't matter, because if you are,
of course it should matter.
It shouldn't, because we talking about attempts. So if the attempts are there, you know what I mean? Like if you are, say Jordan has played 150 playoff games and LeBron paid, because it's something, the difference is something around there, 215 or something like that, right?
Uh-huh.
But they both took around 9 and 10. They both are only taking around 9 to 10 shots to win, tie, or go ahead at the end of these games.
Uh-huh.
So we have a number. We have a number that is close to each other that we can compare to. Like it's not a vast difference of numbers. It's about the shots that they're taking. They both are taking this. Does that make sense?
Are we live right now?
No. Why?
Because are you sure?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
Because who is this? Oh, it's my roommate.
Oh, wow.
Hold on. I just lost my earpiece. So, LeBron has played in 60 more playoff games than MJ.
But that, I'm saying that the shot attempts is what matters, right? Because if they, it doesn't matter how many more that games, right? If we both only taken, say let's make it dead even. Say you played in 50 more playoff games than I did, but in game tying or go ahead situations, we both have only taken 10. We have 10. We have 10. We have 10 even to compare and contrast with. So it's not.
But is that the case? Are they even with attempts?
It's close. It's close. It's close.
Okay.
That's the thing. Like it's not like LeBron has like 50 more attempts, like
it's
because he doesn't take a lot.
Right, but it's tough too because it's one of those. there's stats, but then there's eyeball in the game. And
I don't want to eyeball though. I want you to tell me.
Well, no. If it's just stats, if we're just talking only stats, no champion, LeBron's the greatest player of all time, hands down.
Yeah, but the stats tell you what transpired on the floor. So I love when people say, "Well, they don't really matter because it's like no. The stats tell you that this is what happened."
Stats matter, but if it was only stats, then is Wilt Chamberlain the greatest player of all time? Because he averaged 50 points a game.
But it's always been my point that it's not only stats. You know what I'm saying? But I brought the stat up because you said, well, he's the only thing that's keeping me is that he's a better clutch. So then I bring in the stat to attack the clutch point. You see what I'm saying?
I know what you're doing, and I get it, and it absolutely is an argument, and it's not necessarily wrong. But when we're talking about taking over at the end of a game, there's so many variables, and it's not just scoring. Obviously, MJ was a great closer when it came to scoring. We've seen them both take over games. We saw Kobe take over games. Stats are part of it. I don't know.
It's part of it, and like you said, they're nitpicking, right? So LeBron has 47% of his attempted game-winning shots, compared to Jordan's 45%. So it's close. It's close, but my point is LeBron also has these are things that people use as, well, this is why Jordan's better. And I'm like, actually, no. The stats say something different. Even though it's close, LeBron only, as far as shooting percentage in clutch stats, LeBron only out gets him by 2%, right?
Yeah.
But
it's also tough because we're comparing guys who played in two different eras too. That's
part too.
That's also hard because, don't get me wrong, LeBron in any era would have been crazy because you wouldn't have been able to stop him with hand checking or no hand checking.
Right.
But Jordan, who was a smaller player than LeBron, still was a big, strong guard, played in an era where you could do way more shit to players and still put up the numbers and still was able to get off shots and clutch shots.
Right.
And it's tough because just eyeballing and stats and knowing what they both do, it's so close. It's just like, it's still even to me. Like I don't know. It's tough. For a long time, the knock on LeBron was he wasn't performing in the clutch, but he was really young, and then he figured it out, and then he did perform in the clutch.
Yeah.
And he's a great clutch player, one of the greatest of all time. It's just a matter of, okay, I just
don't like that people don't give him his due in the clutch, because like you said, it's almost too much eyeballing. Like, well, I only, it's like when people say good news doesn't travel fast, but bad news does, right? It's like we only remember, oh, well, he melted down in the game against Dallas, but we don't remember the game, the series winning shot that he hit against the Raptors, or when he hit the turnaround shot against in the playoffs early on in his career against Detroit or somebody. Like, we don't remember those things. So that's why I go to the stick, because we started the conversation off saying we can't lean too much on this. Well, he got 7 rings and he got that, you know what I mean?
Right.
But I use it because I hear people say things that are a little too heartfelt. Like, okay, I get it. You love Jordan. We all love Jordan. But just because you love Jordan doesn't mean that he performed better in the clutch than X player, or, you know what I'm saying? Because the numbers say, and that's when I bring it in, the numbers say that that's not true. You know what I mean?
Let me ask you something. If Jordan, I'm gonna ask you 2 things. I'm gonna start with one question.
Mm-hmm.
If Jordan, instead of retiring after that second three-peat, played 2 more seasons, and this may not have happened, but let's just say he did, and he won 2 more championships, and he's got 8. Does that change the argument?
No. Because I don't put that much weight on strictly ring counting, because basketball is a team sport, right? I always think that a lot of the teams that Jordan was on was far better than teams that LeBron, especially when he was losing early on in his career. Like, those teams, Those teams don't compare.
If you look at his teams, they weren't very good.
I mean, I wouldn't say they weren't very good because they got Hall of Famers on them.
Only 2 Hall of Famers. Dennis Rodman, who didn't provide any offense, and Scottie Pippen.
But that's not a small feat. And but isn't Steve Kerr didn't make it in the Hall? Okay, so but you still had those guys
Steve Kerr
who
wasn't very good. Steve Kerr was
a specialist though. Yeah, he was. But Steve Kerr was better than Mike Miller. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, so I would take
Steve Kerr wasn't better than Mike Miller.
Yes, he was.
As a basketball player?
As a shooter.
I mean,
just as a shooter.
Yeah. No, Steve Kerr was a great shooter.
Tony Kukoc was better than Shane Battier. Like, you know what I mean?
Dude,
so
I don't know about that.
Oh yeah,
he was about that.
As far as being a shooter, like these is guys that he had a conversation with in the huddle and said, I'm gonna kick you the ball. You're gonna be open. He said that to Steve Kerr, right? So these is these guys, the team that they compared that 72-win Warriors team was the 96 Bulls. They said that was the greatest team of all time.
Well, they were comparing them to them because they broke their record, but most guys.
But that's when they won 73 games.
But most guys that I've talked to don't think that Bulls team was really the greatest ever. It was, like we talk about part-time. But see, that's the thing. They say it's not the greatest team ever because if you look at the team doesn't look nearly as good as some of these other teams that won championships. But they still were able to beat, like that Sonics team they beat was legit. Detlef, I think that team has 3. I don't know if Sean Kemp ended up being a Hall of Famer, but he was a bona fide all-star. Gary Payton, Detlef Schrempf. That Sonics team was stacked. That Suns team they beat was stacked with an MVP Charles Barkley. They beat some really, really, really good basketball. They weren't rolling over like when the Lakers beat Orlando.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like they weren't playing chumps at all.
Right, but I also don't want us to to forget how monumental these guys were. Like Scottie Pippen was a lockdown defender.
Yeah, he's great.
And a trash truck cleanup dude. And then you also had that in Dennis Rodman, like one of the best defenders, the best people call him the best rebounder ever of all time, right?
I mean, yeah, it'd be like like a Draymond Green on your team.
But nobody's ever mistaken Draymond Green for the best rebounder of all time, right?
No, but
no one's ever mistaken Chris Bosh for the best rebounder. Like these are legends. Like these guys are legends. You know what I mean? Like
yeah. But the Dennis Rodman thing for me, that's tough though.
It ain't tough for me because he was one of the greatest ever.
But
Phil Jackson. Then we don't talk about coaching either.
It's also an era thing because in today's NBA, Dennis Rodman wouldn't even have a job. You know what I mean? Like it's tough to compare that.
Yeah, but also we gotta stick to that was the competition that he was playing. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Like he wouldn't have a job today because the competition is greater, right?
Well, no, because he'd be expected to do things that he isn't capable of doing.
But he would get beat out because competition. Like it's kids that's coming up in AAU right now that can shoot the three, that can rebound, that can pass, and they also 6'8".
Right, exactly.
You know what I mean?
But I still think if you look at those teams on paper, though,
I would take them. Scottie Pippen, Dennis Rodman, Tony Kukoc, Ron Harper, Steve Kerr. Like these is like what? Like
yeah, but those guys didn't play together though. Those were different squads. Dennis Rodman didn't play with Tony Kukoc. And Harper.
I'm just saying that these is guys that Jordan got to play with. You know what I'm saying? Like these is legendary guys, and I think we get away from that. That's why I don't do the rings thing because I'm like these teams but the context matters.
But the rings is part of the conversation.
Right? It's definitely part of it. It's definitely part of it. But if you tell me, Jordan, if Jordan got 8 and LeBron still got 3, it's not going to sway me. Also, because when I do. If I'm doing a comparison, I'm doing a comparison player to player, not team to team. Because Jordan also had to name a coach that was in Phil Jackson's that could sit at any table with Phil Jackson that LeBron never had.
That he ever had?
None. Yeah. He never had one, right? LeBron was damn near player coach on every team that he was on.
It's tough.
Look at that, he got Frank Vogel right now. He about to take that team to a championship.
Yeah, it's tough though because the knock on Phil Jackson. Don't get me wrong, he's great. But the knock on him is that he's only been able to win with MJ and Scottie Pippen and Kobe and Shaq and Pau Gasol.
Right,
you know
but
I mean?
but all he does is win. That's the thing.
All he does is win.
All he does is win. So that's all we can kind of project what Phil Jackson would have been if this would have happened, but we can't look at his resume is still his resume. All he did was win everywhere he went. So now we got to talk about him like one of the greatest coaches of all time, right? Mm-hmm. LeBron has never. That's why LeBron loved Coach K so much, because he's never experienced great coaching. So whenever he had the Olympics, he hugging Coach K like that's his dad, because he's never experienced great coaching. He's won championships with cadaver dogs sitting on a bench as far as coaching goes. Mm-hmm. I mean, so that's why I say context matters. And when I compare it, I compare player to player because people don't take into account all of these other things, like the role player, having a legendary rebounder like Dennis Rodman, or having a legendary defender, or having a legendary coach. People don't ever bring that into the argument. They never bring that into the argument.
It's definitely part of the argument. It's a big part of the argument. It's just tough, man, because like he also went up against Clyde Drexlers and Charles Barkleys and Kevin Johnsons, and you know what I mean? Like, I wish I could have seen that. I wish,
but really for every Clyde Drexler, I can give you Tim Duncan. I could give you Paul George. I could give you Kawhi Leonard. I could give you Kevin Garnett. I can give you Stephen Curry. These is all people that LeBron James took down and won championships going up against. You know what I'm saying? So it's right, that matches up.
Right. So you're saying the competition, they both beat great teams and great players.
Yeah, but I'm saying LeBron beat more great players and great teams. Like, you know what I'm saying? That Celtics, people don't realize, they talk about the big three. That Celtics team was the first big three. Kevin Garnett and Ray Allen and Paul Pierce. That was really the first big three.
So we're talking about playoffs too, not just championships.
Yeah. Like because this is a team that LeBron had to get by. And when we look at it on Jordan's side, when he had his big three, or not really his big three, but his equivalent, he lost to him. He didn't beat so if we look at it like that, LeBron ended up overcoming his early nemesis in that Celtics team, when Jordan really didn't beat his until they got old.
Jordan didn't beat his like the Pistons?
Yeah.
No, I mean, he got by. It took him like 5 years, but he got by in that like 6th year.
But that's what I'm saying. At that point, they wasn't. It was like Mayweather and Pacquiao fighting too late. Like, yeah, you beat them, but you fought them you ain't fight them at the right time.
I don't know. I think it's a combination of maybe they're still great though. I mean, at that time, nobody was saying, "Oh, these guys are washed up."
They wasn't who they was when they was spanking them all over the place.
Jackson took over, and MJ also got better. You know what I mean? Like, he was certainly a different player.
But they definitely got older. That's the thing. Like, they wasn't. And Isaiah said it. Isaiah was like, he beat us because we got, like, you know what I mean? But it's like
Isaiah, of course, will say that. But yeah, I mean.
But overall, I'm saying, like,
it's always going to be a factor. I mean, look, players are going to get older. LeBron had to overcome squads that. Yeah. You know,
I just think if we got to line them up and we put them on paper, I think when it's all said and done, we're gonna look at it and go, LeBron beat better competition. You know what I'm saying? But I think overall, I don't compare the teams. I don't compare the coaching. I compare the players. And so when I look at it, I go, okay, LeBron does this better than Jordan. He does this better than Jordan. He does this better than Jordan. So that's how I do it. You know what I'm saying? And to me, that simplifies it. Like, well, who do I think? Who do I think it?
I get that, but to be honest, it's tough because it's not wrong either to do that. But if you do that, to be honest, Magic Johnson's better than Michael Jordan. Because the rings are basically the same. He was a better rebounder. He was a better passer. He's a better ball handler.
But the context, he also wasn't. He was a facilitator, so he wasn't. You're not. It's not really apples to apples there. You know what I'm saying?
But Magic's considered by most a top 5 player of all time.
Yeah, but
But if you go by just stat line for stat line, the thing that MJ stands out more than, like, no question for his era or most eras, other than let's say LeBron, is that he scored at a better clip than he was just the greatest scorer of all time, obviously a great clutch player, and he was a great defender.
Right.
Other than that, he didn't do anything better than Larry Bird or Magic Johnson.
But I think the difference there is when you talk about the situation with Magic, we're talking about guys who were the guy, right? Like Magic, came in, won Rookie of the Year, I think, right? But
No,
that was
Larry Bird was Rookie of the Year.
Oh, that was right. But Magic wasn't the LeBron of his team. You know what I'm saying? And so when we
was the LeBron of his team.
No, he wasn't. That's the thing. Like he could score when he was scoring. He could score, but he wasn't. They weren't depending on him to score. It was Worthy.
Well,
it was Kareem. You know what I mean? Like
when they needed to, he was like he played center and scored.
But that's what I'm saying. But with Jordan and LeBron, like they were the engines that to make their teams go. Like it wasn't an option for them. You know what I'm saying? Like LeBron is also. They say, I always like to say LeBron is really the baby of Magic and Michael. And I heard a lot of other people say that too. But the Magic side is that LeBron is a facilitator, and he does that well. But he's also the engine that makes he's also the lead scorer on every team that he's on. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, I would say he's a better scorer, but again, I'm just talking about if we're talking about filling up state, we look at who's better at this, and all the different aspects of the game. He's better at more things than MJ is. So are you saying no matter what those other stat lines are, scoring, you have to be the best scorer on your team? Which by the way, I think Magic was, other than maybe when Kareem was those first couple years with Kareem, because Kareem was arguably another guy that's arguably the greatest scorer of all time. I think
what I'm saying is that I go back to one of my favorite things. Context matters, right? So it's the same thing that I said with John Morant and Zion Williamson thing, right? Like, how can we really compare this one guy in Zion Williamson to this other guy in John Morant when the John Morant is leaned on heavily every night to lead his team to wins, and Zion Williamson isn't? Is he great? Yeah, but they don't carry the same weight, is what I'm saying. I think that's what I'm saying. Like, and that's the reason why people don't. Magic and Michael thing is not a thing. Like, that's why it's not a thing, because those two things they got to match up, right? And so that was my whole contention with the Rookie of the Year thing. Like, it was mainly because John Morant has a lot more on his plate, and so when you compare John Morant, you got to compare somebody else who's doing the same thing, who has more on his plate.
Its argument is just tough because it's circumstantial, which is true, but it's also, it can go either way, because if Zion's on a team that doesn't have who's the dude, Brandon Ingram, if he just happens to not be on that team, Zion's going to have the ball damn near every play.
Right.
They're going to get the ball to him every play, and he's going to be expected to go do everything.
Right.
And then his number.
But then the question is, are they still winning?
I mean, I think
you know what I mean.
But yeah, because I mean,
because
win games.
They're gonna win games, but are they gonna be a playoff team? They're not a playoff team now. But the thing is, okay, let's say if he's there from the beginning of the year, and Zion is the centerpiece of the offense, are they winning? Are they in the conversation? Because now if they're not winning, you can't really be in the conversation. You know what I mean? Right. I mean, it's all projection. We don't, we'll never know.
I know what you're saying. It's just again, it's tough because who's better at this, who's better at that. Well, LeBron's better at everything than MJ in a sense.
Yeah, but that's my take.
Other than I wouldn't say he's a better scorer, but we know that they can both score.
Yeah,
at a very high clip. So it depends.
But how about this?
And that's the edge. See, to me, that's the edge of why, because who's better at this, who's better at that? Get like 10 areas of basketball. LeBron might even have, let's say he has 7 of them. But if MJ, and again, this, I don't know if this goes with stats, but I mean, I think he averaged 39 a game one year. Like a lot of people would say he was the better scorer. So then it's about how much weight does scoring carry. But then you make the argument that Well, but he didn't do it at a high enough clip percentage wise.
Yeah.
And then it's like, how much does that matter?
Right. But at the end of the day, and we'll leave it on this. With LeBron shoring up his 3-point shot like he is, if he stays on this route, he's gonna end up being the better scorer going away, because he's gonna end up. He already passed him in points, I think.
Oh, he had. Yeah.
So he's gonna walk. He's gonna run away with in that lane, because now if he adds that 3-point shot to his arsenal like he's been doing, it's going. Then what? At the end of the day, when it's all said and over, he's done playing for years. You're gonna be able to say, well, he has him scoring on the all-time list, and he kills him in 3-point shooting.
Yeah. I mean, I think he's already the better 3-point shooter. And again, that's tough too, because back then
they wasn't shooting it like that.
You didn't need to shoot it. You didn't need to.
Right. But I'm saying this is.
But then if Jordan played in today's game, he'd be more of a 3-point shooter.
He probably would.
So
but I'm saying, but that's the point I'm making, is that is going to get lost in translation years from now. Like the oh, well, Jordan didn't really shoot it back then. Like, it's gonna get lost in translation, because you're gonna look on the stats and say LeBron ended his career at shooting 43% from 3. Like, you gonna be like, whoa, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's true. It's true.
Just to put a bow on it, we're gonna be doing some quarantine backstage sports sessions. You guys go to our pages. I think we got an official Backstage Sports Instagram page now.
We do, at Backstage Sports.
Yeah, just at Backstage Sports.
That easy.
I'm Joe Connor. You can follow me at Joe Connor 33.
At JT Harker for me on everything.
At JT Harker on everything. Be safe. Stay inside. Peace.
See you guys.